Hello and welcome to another episode of the You Got the Wrong Dude podcast. I'm your host, Ron Jamin. Thank you very much for tuning in. Full audio episodes are available on Anchor.fm, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. And be sure to check back for when they drop on other platforms as well. Video clips are available on the YouTube channel and also on Spotify, so check those out. I'd love to hear from you. So leave some feedback. If you're listening on Anchor.fm, you can actually leave a voice message. And other platforms, you can leave comments, reviews, and such. And social media is at Ron Jamin. And on Facebook, it's at Ron Jamin22. If you'd like to sponsor an episode, those are the best ways to reach me. So in this episode, I'll be talking all about the infamous slap heard around the world, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the 94th Academy Awards. And with the title, it's not clickbait. I'm just not very convinced by it. I do believe it was staged, but I'm pretty open-minded, so I'll be diving into all my notes, that I've written down. Because really, overall, it doesn't even matter, because we're in the age of content like never before. So whether it was staged or not, I'm going to talk about that. And, it's just, it was like Thanos' snap, Just like, it seems like everyone witnessed it. And it took over for quite a while. But I am curious what you think, so make sure and leave some comments and feedback and such. But, anyways, let's get right into it. Okay, let's get right into it. Now, when I first saw it, I was convinced that it was staged, and here's why. Because they had good coverage on everything, but it was more about the editing, really. Cover some things up. So, Chris Rock makes a joke, and we see Will laughing at it. And then you see Jada, and she's just not impressed. She's not humored by it. And I was like, so then he goes up on stage and then just slaps him. Chris doesn't even try and dodge it or anything. And then on the way back to his seat, you see Will smiling. I'm like, they should have covered that up. They should have switched cameras or something. Have it focused on somebody else. And then to sit back down and, it's like all of a sudden he's in a rage. Yet he laughed at the joke. And no one escorts him out. He just sits back down. First of all, just getting on stage. Now I understand there you have all actors, actresses and that. But now who knows with security measures how those will change. Because whether it was staged or not, it just paints a bad picture. And because people are now like, whoa, I don't want to go there. I don't want to attend because I got to worry about someone coming up on stage. But, I can understand, because when you think about it, over and over, because, good gosh, this thing just blew up like crazy. And you're like, well, Will thought the joke was funny. It was harmless. And did it have to be said? No. And I'll get into my disappointment in Chris Rock from a comedic standpoint a little later on. But, so Will looks over, and Jada, we didn't see, but she probably gave him a look. Or he saw that she didn't enjoy the joke. Now that I can understand. You'd be like, I'm going to take care of this. I'll be right back. But also, Will is a great actor. We know this. I was born in 83. I grew up with The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I remember going to school the next day after an episode aired, and we'd be talking about it in gym class and that. And then Will Smith, his star blowing up with Independence Day, and all the stuff he's done since, and all the movies and that I'll get into a little later on. But he's a great actor. And some people can switch their emotions on and off. Like people who can cry on cue. It's like all of a sudden they're rageful, or they're sad, or they're happy. Just switch it on and off. But the slap, I mean, if that was fake, it's like, I'm like, bravo. But I think if it was staged, they agreed like, okay, but you're going to have to take the slap. And that's why, I think it was staged because, I mean, heck, what award show doesn't need that boost in ratings? You're competing with, video content online these days. But the more I think about it and that over time, it's like, I could argue it both ways, really. But I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually come out and whomever says it is like, yeah, we planned that. And even to a certain extent or whatever. But there are just some things I would have covered up if it were staged. Like Will's smile, he couldn't even hold it back coming off stage in that. Now, maybe he was proud. Maybe Jada gave him a nod, a little smirk or smile, just saying like, thank you. But, yeah, it's strange because now recording this, I'm looking over my notes and that, and I'm like, in the long run, it's like it doesn't matter if it's staged or not because it's content for people. And I'll talk more about that a little later on as well. But let me know what you think in the comments. Leave a voice message. I'd love to hear from you. What was your reaction when you first saw it, when you first heard about it? But all in all, whether it was staged or not, it doesn't help performers. If you're a comic, you're doing a speech, you're at an awards show, just anything like that. It's like people see this and they're like, oh, I can just go up on stage and assault you and then sit right back down, no consequences. You won't even be escorted out. And this was, no matter what, a ratings boost, for sure. Went viral on the internet however many times. But it's just kind of setting a bad example. Because if it was staged, they could have done something else. And more of like a prank situation. But I can understand, if you're a performer, now you're worried because, if there's no security, then you're like, if somebody rushes the stage, what's going to happen? And how many copycats are there going to be? But that worries me because you don't want people not to, perform whatever, whether they're doing stand-up or, a speech or just an awards show. And be like, oh, I'm not going because I'm worried about something like this happening. But it's just a negative overall impact, I think, because it just doesn't help anyone. Well, it was reported that Will Smith has been banned from attending the Academy Awards for 10 years. But I think that's up to the audience. Not at the Academy Awards, I mean like all of us. Because people online can demand his return when he has another performance that's highly praised. And if the Academy felt that Will's behavior was truly upsetting, they would have had him removed. And he refused. It's like, oh no, we're not asking. You're out of here. So that part to me is also suspicious. But it's totally up to, everybody online. Because people say, well, we won't watch unless he can be nominated, this year for an award. He has to be able to attend. And it's just the public opinion. I mean, that's pretty much just taken over. Because people have hashtags, they'll have movements, followers, followings, and such. But let me know what you think. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, I've been following Will Smith's career pretty much since it started. And I was always a fan of his work. Not all the time, not all of his movies, but he always gave everything his all. If the movie was bad, it's like he is still great in it. And I'll talk about those more later. So that being said, I don't want anything bad to happen to Will. However, I feel he's made himself a target, by showing a violent response and his inability to balance his emotions. And again, this is whether it was staged or not. It just paints a, kind of a bad picture for everything. So if you're a diehard Chris Rock fan, this pissed you off. It's like, there are a lot of crazy people out there. Or maybe crazy is insensitive. There are people who are willing to stand up for their beliefs in extreme ways, I'll say that. And some people I know, they lost all respect for Will Smith. And they just didn't understand this whole thing. But people will take matters into their own hands. And they see something like this and who knows what advice, Will Smith got after this. They said, lay low, and don't go out anywhere, don't do anything. And just lay low for a while. Because those diehard Chris Rock fans, one of the biggest stand-up comics in the world, people be like, hey, that's our boy. I'm like, you messed with him. And there are consequences. So maybe some would argue like, Will Smith, he was standing up for Jada. And it's like, yeah, but physical assault, is that really the right move? So now back to the movies of Will Smith. I'm not going to go through all of them or anything, but I bring him up because there are some duds. And this is one of the reasons I believe it's possible this was staged. Because it seems like for every movie that's praised, not just his performance, but the movie itself, there's usually a dud after that. And I'm not slamming him at all. Like I said, I've been following his career since the beginning. And he's always great in movies, even when they don't work well. Like Collateral Beauty, I don't understand why that movie got bashed. That's a beautiful film. And the twist at the end, it's one of those like Shutter Island, where you're just like, oh, really, After Earth, it's like him and Jaden, they were great. I actually haven't seen the whole thing, but that movie got trashed. But it's strange because you wouldn't think like, well, Will Smith needed the boost because he's done so much work. But it's an opportunity because, the Academy Awards, Will Smith, Chris Rock, they all get that boost. Because really, it doesn't matter what people think overall. And just hear me out on this. It's all about numbers, views. Like, let's say this episode gets 1 million views and it gets like more dislikes than likes. If you're a sponsor out there, you'd be like, oh, no. I don't care what people think. You're getting numbers. You're getting views. Here's some money. Promote our product. I'm not saying all companies are like that, but if you get my point. So Will didn't need this. Same with Rock. His movies, I love him in Grown Ups, but even in those, they don't use him a lot. And remember when he was on SNL, Saturday Night Live, they didn't know what to do with him. But ticket sales now, after this, Chris Rock, his ticket prices went up. You have more material to work off of. Will Smith, people are like, if you're not a fan now, or if you're just like, I don't like this guy, but I want to see if he does something like this on the big screen again. Boom. They got you. When something like this happens in this day and age, it's different because there's no real message. It's just how you interpret it and, how you share it with people, your opinion and such. I would say no victory, but really, as far as, a viral moment, ratings boost, you up that star power. So you could argue it's just for selfish reasons. To whomever came up with this idea to stage it, if it was staged. And that's just an example of the time we live in. There's no message, just a numbers victory. Boy, oh boy, what a viral moment this was. Because these days a lot of stuff goes viral. We're in the age of content creators. There's so much to take in. A lot of stuff goes viral, but this was an explosion. One of those that hits and you're like, everybody knows about it. Memes, reactions, parodies, etc. And millions, if not billions, of views overall. And the number of videos created, who knows? And just the artwork in that. But it creates a lot of buzz for next year's Oscars. Because are you going to watch? Because it's not like, again, you don't want to see somebody being assaulted, of course. I wish they would have done this in more of a prank form. But it has you on the edge of your seat, so you're like, no, I'm going to tune in next year because you never know. But, yeah, what did you do? When you first heard about it, you're like, well, I'm going to watch it, make a reaction video. Or did you start talking to your friends, family, like, did you hear about this? And I'd love to hear from you. As a stand-up comedy buff, I was really disappointed in Chris Rock, just from a comedic standpoint. Now, there's been arguments about whether or not he improvised the G.I. Jane 2 joke, or attempted a joke, if he went off script. And that I really don't care about, because it's not a, I don't know, it just didn't seem to hit. It was an easy joke, but how many people had to get out their phones and be like, G.I. Jane? Like, does he mean G.I. Joe? Just because that G.I. Jane movie, I believe it came out in like 96, 97, and it just didn't really leave a mark per se. And also, the other big reason I was disappointed in him, strong comic doesn't simply address what incident just happened, whether it was on stage or in the crowd, but you make a funny remark response to it. And Chris just said what happened. He had his moment to shine. Now, I understand. And again, my last time saying this, whether it was staged or not, like, he didn't work out a deal, like, okay, but I get to say this after he slaps me. It's like, you had your moment, and I mean, you're physically assaulted. I can understand your shock in that. But also, it's like, just take a moment and just think of something to get him, But I just, Chris Rock, I mean, that was your moment to shine. So why wasn't Will Smith canceled? I'm curious what you think. Now, allegedly he can't attend the Oscars for 10 years. And punishment aside, if this weren't an A-list celebrity, do you think they would have been canceled for going up on stage and assaulting someone? See, this again, even though it's really up to the viewers, all of us, everyone who watched it, because the internet really decides who's canceled and who's not. But this was just such a, I don't want to say incredible, but just, again, such a viral moment. And so shocking in that seemed to overshadow, someone being canceled. Because, people praise Will Smith. He's a great actor, always seemed like a nice guy. And he can do comedy, drama. Heck, the guy played Ali. And who didn't tear up at the end of The Pursuit of Happiness? But it's just like, now I'm thinking of Tom Cruise, because he went through that period around War of the Worlds when that was coming out, that whole Katie Holmes thing. And I'm not comparing these guys in that they're the same or anything, but you see what I'm saying. Like, if it was so-and-so, they would have been canceled. But it just makes you think more about celebrity and status and such. But also, people love comeback stories. Giving people a second chance. Because some people, they get so high and you're like, I want to see them fall. Not lose everything, but you want to see them, just a different side of them. And that's what this was. But let me know what you think. Will Smith's next movie, next project, are you going to watch it? Can you separate this incident from his work, his acting? And on that, again, I can separate the person from an incident like this. Or I can separate their work, rather. So, was Will Smith still worthy of the award? Yes. He was nominated, he won, that's fair. However, being able to accept the award on stage after assaulting Chris Rock, see, it makes the Oscars look terrible, but really, all in all, who really cares? It's a content opportunity for everyone. But I know that to me, it's like, it shows you, you can argue star power all day, what kind of power people have. Like, no, I'm not leaving. And, you have your team around you and be like, well, they're going to protect me from your security. I'm not leaving. But it's just him being able to go back up on stage and accept the award. And some celebrities, I always wonder, this is kind of a side note, it's like they post about their struggles and that, and it's like, we know you're human. Like, why do you want us to view you as a victim? Like, yes, you make a lot of money, but it's been proven time and time again, money doesn't equal happiness. You could be a multimillionaire, a billionaire, and miserable, because life always gets in the way, and some things are just inevitable. But to try and make yourself a victim of stuff, it's like, you don't need to do that. But yeah, this is all just very interesting. But yes, did the performance, got high praise for it. That I don't have a problem with. I'm sure I'll watch the movie someday. It doesn't really interest me. But yes, accept the award, but maybe he should have done it, on Zoom or something later on. Well, I'm watching Will Smith's apology video to Chris Rock. And this is what I'm talking about. Because he kind of shot himself in the foot. He didn't cover this one very vital thing. Because someone had asked him, after Jada rolled her eyes, because we saw Will laughing at the joke, did she ask him to do something? And he says no. He decided to do it. So that right there, to me, is a dead giveaway that it was staged. You didn't cover your tracks. I'm a little over halfway through the video, so I'll let you know my final thoughts. Okay, I just finished watching the apology video, and it's really interesting. I mean, Will Smith is a great actor, and he sells this. And the timing of it, to me, it seemed like too soon if this was staged. But that's the age we live in now. It's like, you want this stuff right away, you know? People don't want to wait for stuff. And again, you could argue, well, he laughed at the joke, Jada rolled her eyes, and when he saw that, he decided to take action. But to me, it still doesn't add up. But watching this, it's like you want to have a conversation with Will. Like, no cameras around, even though it'd be a great content opportunity. But just to pick his brain about not only this, but just movies he's worked on and such, his rise to success, his music, all that stuff. But I could see him and Rock, I mean, it's inevitable. They're going to have a conversation on camera. Maybe something on Joe Rogan. Or maybe something where they're just kind of talking to each other. Because I'm sure Rogan would want to have a conversation with them. Not just like host an event. You know? Kind of like the Protect Our Parks. With Mark Norman, Ari Shaffir, Shane Gillis. Like, you want to be in the conversation with them. You don't want to be like just watching them talk to each other. But yeah, the future of this, I mean, I'm sure they'll work on a movie or a project someday, because people want more. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the physical assault, it's like, I'd go with pranks. Get the Impractical Jokers involved, something like that. Make it funny. But, yeah, the apology was interesting. And it'll be really even more interesting to see them talk about it, because, you know, they're face-to-face in that, and they can just kind of hash it out. Well, this isn't the first time that Chris Rock has made a comment towards Jada. This actually goes back to the late 90s. And it hasn't happened a lot, but you could say like it was kind of brewing. And there's always an opportunity. It's like, listen, we need ratings. We're competing with insane numbers on the internet. You guys don't really need anything, but this will up your ticket sales for comedy, movies, whatever else. And you see an opportunity, it's like, what do you think? But it just seemed like you had things in place to be like, we could try something. And people will love it, they'll hate it, they'll have mixed feelings, and it's like, but it'll boost those ratings. And then you get in on the internet content, because people, like I said, all the memes and parodies and such, reaction videos. Well, in closing, this is just one of those things, one of those insanely viral moments that it's so undeniable. Not that anyone would deny it, but again, whether it was planned or not, it's just a huge moment. There's just so much content to be created, and it adds to views. But I'm disappointed in Chris just because of the comedy moments, because the G.I. Jane 2 and then his response after being slapped. But, they all can't be winners. But as a comic, you're like, you had a couple shots there. That G.I. Jane 2 thing was off script. It's like, really? I mean, just a G.I. Jane reference. I mean, come on. But also I'm disappointed because all in all, it does it sets a bad example. It shows people like, no, you can do whatever you want. Oh no, you can return to your seat. Actually, you can stay the rest of the show. It's no problem. But I'm curious how this will change events, if it has changed them. We saw what happened with Dave Chappelle. Well, thank you for listening. And this podcast is available full audio episodes on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Video clips on YouTube and Spotify, so check those out. And leave a voice message on Anchor.fm. I'd love to hear from you. And I will see you next time. And thank you very much for listening.